Welcome to the Bottom Line Podcast. So we say what we mean, and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line. Today's guest is a realtor out in Queens, the East Elmhurst area, and she focuses a lot with working with buyers and sellers all throughout Queens. And she's been working in real estate for quite some time, and has a lot of relationship-centered experience that I like to, we'll talk about today, right? Just to give you a little bit of an idea of my guest. She's been working in the real estate field for about 7 years now, and she's a big proponent on treating people the way that she would expect to be treated, right? So that goes without saying when you're in sales, when you're selling real estate or any business that you find yourself being a little too transactional, you want to get back to being people-centered and relationship-centered, right? She takes pride in providing her service with great service and honesty. She's also considered a knowledgeable expert in her area of expertise, right? So I personally follow her on Facebook. I like to see who she's talking to because she keeps her fingers on the pulse of what's going on in the markets and all the parties that are involved in getting a deal done. So if you ever follow Rosa on Facebook, you'll see her talking to lenders. You'll see her talking to title company holders. You'll see her talking to people at Sonima. She also speaks Spanish. So when she speaks Spanish, I try to pay attention, but she speaks pretty fast. And sometimes she goes into English, but she's very articulate when it comes to breaking down some things that seem more complex in real estate. All right. Today's guest is Miss Rosa Collado. Rosa, how are you?
Great. I'm doing great, Dennis. Thanks again for having me here. I'm excited to start with you and see where this takes us.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm excited to have you on. Like I said, I watch a lot of your content. I look at the people that you're interviewing a lot of the times, and I like how you're able to simplify some things that may seem a little bit overwhelming for both buyers and sellers. Just before we get into, talking about real estate or talking about sales, how have you been doing since this whole pandemic struck?
So I've been actually doing pretty well. I went through a bit of a roller coaster ride at the start of it all. I just decided that I wanted to work hard. I want to work more because my thought was, hey, this should be done in about a month or so. And then, 3 months in, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm working and I'm putting in a lot of effort, yet I'm not seeing results. And I'm a very results-oriented individual.
Yeah.
So I kind of went into a little bit of a slump, I want to say, towards the end, which was great that it happened at the end, not at the beginning.
Right.
But yet what I did do was really work more on myself. Like, where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And how can I get closer to that?
Love it.
So right now I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. I love to hear that, right? Because sometimes we got to get away from what we do, and we got to get in touch with who we are and try to get into a better sense of being, right? So that we could be more productive. And I don't know about you, but I think I get the sense from you that you're constantly chasing achievements, right? You're probably past the point where you're like, okay, I need to make a certain amount of money. Because I have coaching calls with people where I say, okay, let's talk about your financial target. And it takes them a while to figure out what that number is. But then once we get past that point, you have a different mindset. Once you get past that point, it's like, all right, I want to achieve this. I want to achieve that, right? And they're like these trophy achievements that kind of serve as an anchor to keep you grounded next time you face adversity, right? So, you said you went through a slump for a little bit. How long did your slump last?
I want to say, just because I've been into self-development a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, it took I want to say about 3 to 4 days.
Okay. That was a quick slump.
I know, that's what I'm like. I've been in self-development. So that's why for me, it was pretty quickly,
right?
Because I get to go back to myself and say, okay, why am I feeling this way? So I do a lot of journaling.
Good.
And my journey will be more of like, well, I'm feeling this way. And how do I feel about feeling this way? And then towards the end, I kind of figure it out, which is great because honestly, we have the answer inside of us.
There it is.
When do we quiet ourselves to really listen to that?
Yeah. Going into a state of being, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's key because I tell people that all the time through personal development. Try to find a place before you go to bed where you're most relaxed and your brain starts replaying its day, and just start jotting down, what your achievements were, and then figure out where you want to go from there. So a little bit about your background. I think you and I were talking, and I was telling you that you and I went to the same high school at one point. We didn't know each other. We didn't run into each other or anything. But what kind of kid were you back in high school? What kind of girl was Rosa?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're asking me this.
We want to
So
know,
I
Rosa.
actually, a lot of people don't know. I used to actually rap when I was in high
You
school.
are a rapper.
I used to rap a little bit. I was even going to go to MTV. That's how serious
What?
I
In
am.
Spanish and English or both?
In English, in English.
Nice. This was before pre-reggaeton, right?
Yes, definitely pre-reggaeton. This was when
Nice.
Kim was, up there, and I wanted to be a rapper.
Yeah.
I was not a, I was not a, I was a great student in junior high school, and then we go into Newtown, right? Newtown High School. That's where we come from.
Yeah.
And I started kind of hanging out with the wrong crowd. And one of the things I used to do with teachers is like, I love learning. That was always my thing. I love learning. And I used to go to high school and I'm like, they're not teaching me anything that is of value.
Right.
This teacher is making me do all this homework
Right.
and they're not even reading it. So one day, this is terrible. One day I decided to like write a letter to this teacher, like write the homework and
Right.
just tell him how much I dislike his class and how like it's not good.
Right.
He actually read it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought he didn't read it. He read it. So I was a bit of I was one of those little tough students. I did graduated really good from high school
Yeah.
and got my college degree. But
Right.
yeah, I was one of those little not so great high school students.
At least you graduated, right? I didn't graduate. I got a
Oh,
GED. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So maybe we'll hear some bars from you in the future, right? When you get like a midlife crisis or something, you'll come out with like a rap album.
I know. Nobody knows that. I'm like, that's
Nobody
hysterical.
knows
I'm like
that.
a few friends. Now
Yeah.
everybody knows it.
Now everybody knows. So we used to when I was in Newtown, we used to hang out at the track right down the street from the school. We used to hang out at the track down there. And I was a crazy pothead. I used to smoke so much, right?
Oh.
But that's when my raps were the tightest. That's when I spit the best, like fire bars when I was high, right? But if I wasn't high, I was garbage. I was trash. You know? So that's crazy that I never ran into you at Newtown. When you were like a kid, did you ever feel like you wanted to help people, or were you ever like sales oriented? Like what was your work life like when you were a kid?
So actually my
When did you
work
start
life.
working? Yeah.
Yeah. So I started working, I want to say maybe when I was 15.
Okay.
Right. And I was like babysitting. And then from babysitting, it turned into me working as a waitress for maybe like a week. I didn't really enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
And then my mom ended up buying a building in Corona.
Nice.
And yeah, the realtor was like, hey, do you want to work with me? And I'm like, absolutely. So I used to be cold calling when I was like maybe 16 years old, 15,
Wow.
16. I used to
Nice.
cold call homeowners, asking them if they want to rent. And I would get someone every single day. And I would be so excited for this guy. He wouldn't give me he wouldn't give me anything.
Wow.
Like, hey, here's a little bonus. But my achievement every day was like, I'm going to get him somebody that says, yes, they want to rent.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. So like, how big was the building she bought? Like how many
That was
units?
a
Do you
mixed
remember?
use. Yeah, it was a mixed use. It was 4 apartments and a commercial in the first floor.
Nice. That's a good deal. That's a great deal. Yeah. 16 years old, you're getting your feet wet in real estate. That's I'm kind of hating on you on the low right now. Cause because at 16, I was dreaming about real estate actually. I think I started thinking about real estate when I was like 15. And we used to get the letters under the door about properties in Florida that you can get for sale, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool, right? At 15. So at 16, I'm wondering what I would have felt like if I had access to the sales game at such an early age. That's just crazy. So you're on the phone at 16. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What made you stick to it? Like
I used to love it. Like I used to love, for me, I'm very, again, results oriented. So for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to get someone that will pick up that phone call on me and say, yes, they want to rent. So I used to like that, where it was like for an hour or two, just, dialing and that was it. And I really, truly enjoyed it. I got my license at 18.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
yeah. And then after that, I went to college and decided that I wanted to get a college degree and see if that's where my business, where my life was going to take me, with a bachelor's in business administration.
Okay.
And then, I went into the corporate world, and here I am now, back into real estate full time now, 4 years since September.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my life would have been so different if I would have continued that path of real estate and not decided to go into college.
Really? How so? How do you think it would have been different?
I would have probably owned more. I mean, back then, people
Yeah.
were giving you, I mean, you can get houses just for breathing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Back then, not anymore. Right now, you have
Right.
to have a credit and you got to have income and you
Right.
definitely have to be breathing also.
Right.
But back then, it was just you breathe, you're okay. And so that's why I was saying it would have probably been different because I would have because there was more opportunities there. People were making $100,000, $200,000. Friends that I know that
Right.
were, in real estate at 20, 21-year old
Yeah.
in Queens because it was just so easy. And that is the American dream for the Spanish community is I want to own something and I don't care how much it's going to cost me. I don't care if I can afford it or not. It's
Right.
just that it's a big thing for them.
Wow. That's amazing, man. So how was your mom with all of it? Was she like a driver? Was she like, get on the phones? And was she like, saying that you're going to become this matriarch or, this is your destiny? How was she? Was she pushing it onto you or she was just kind of like laid back about it?
So I actually got hired from the person that sold the building to my mom, right? The realtor.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
realtor was the one. So my mom really wasn't much involved. She was doing her own thing with three boys, and I
Okay.
was more like the oldest, the one that's doing her own thing.
Right.
So she thought
Okay.
it was great. She was like, "Yeah, you should do real estate."
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm asking that because a lot of people, they get into the game just they earn a paycheck. That's pretty much what they want to do. They become transactional and they have this idea that they're going to get rich at some point, but they miss out on like what I call the unquantifiables, right? The, you know, building trust, building rapport, finding a way to relate, finding common ground, right? These things that you can't quantify, you can't put metrics behind them. It's a matter of having an intuitive connection, right? So for somebody at 16 years old who's like, oh, I love this feeling of calling people. I'm going to get them the best client today. That wasn't taught to you. That's inherent. It's intrinsic, right? And then you kind of give that, you kind of give that energy out, and then maybe the people over the phone, they kind of like, oh, it's attractive, right? So you kind of like you attract the sale instead of pushing the sale. It's
Right.
so hard to teach that, right? So at 16 years old, you had something that a lot of people wish they had even today, right? Which shows in your work, it shows in your content, and it shows in the amount of I guess the amount of deals that you've been doing since you went full-time real estate. Right. Was there ever a period where you faced maybe some doubt in the college years when you were maybe not a business administrative major? Maybe you explored some other majors. Maybe you wanted to work in other areas. Was there ever a time when you experienced that?
When I went to college, not necessarily. I was actually in a relationship with
Uh-huh.
that, which wasn't healthy. So for me, I was the first one in my family to go to college. So for me, it was just like go there, get a degree, and then get a good job, right? Like that's
Yep.
what we were trained for.
Right.
Get a degree, get a good job, and just keep moving forward. So for me, it was just like, let's just get this thing done. I don't know what I want to do. So business is the most ideal thing, right? Business administration.
Right.
I didn't have any doubt. The doubt only came in because I graduated when the recession hit. So they weren't really
Like
hiring people.
yeah.
Yeah. That's when I graduated from
Okay.
college. So that's when it became a little bit tough where it's like, is this really when I got my first job, it's just interesting because I got it. I was a purchasing agent, assistant to a purchasing agent.
Okay.
And the purchasing agent didn't really like me. So that was very interesting that to work with someone that really didn't like you. And then it realized that that specific company had a revolving door where they only hire people for 3 months and they fire them. So it was
Wow.
constantly revolving. And I was in that mist. And that for me was devastating when I got fired because I'm
Yeah.
like, fire, like I did a great job, the lady didn't like me, like what could I've done? And I cried. That was like my
Oh,
first time. Yeah, because it was like I was a kid, I got out of college and I
right.
got this job in the with clothing, and I was like, wow, I really like this. And for me to get fired with not doing anything, that really broke my heart, where I was like,
Yeah. Well, one thing I wonder is why didn't they like you since you knew that they didn't like you, right? What is it about you? Or at the time, did you know what is it that you were doing wrong? Why they didn't like you? Did it matter to you?
well, for me, going back and thinking about it, I was very, I'm always consider myself to be a person that I just want to help more than I have to. So it's like I'm looking at areas that need help. So I was like, hey, maybe I can help you with this, or hey, I can do that. And I was doing too much.
Mhm.
So it became like purchasing agent assistant, they were wanting to fire her. So in her mind, she's like, this girl's going to replace me.
There it
So I'm
is.
going to make her life very hard
There it is.
and then continue to push. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was probably just scared of losing her position, right? Being replaced. Because so like the underachievers are the ones who came up with the term overachiever, right? I've always said that. I'm like, some people just set a higher standard for themselves and they just continue to raise the bar, right? And every time they hit that target, they hit that goal, they raise the bar higher and higher because they're pushing themselves, right? And so at 16 years old, you're very consistent in your narrative where it's like, you had this drive at a very young age. It was something you were passionate about. It was centered around helping people, right? And it is also, by helping people, you create this this better sense of self. It becomes part of your identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be threatening and it can be intimidating to people who don't have that at the core of their being. You know what I mean? So the fact that you continue to work with someone that didn't like you and you continue to be productive, that's saying a lot in itself, right? There are situations where, especially in the sales game, where we may, encounter a client, a prospect, right, that we just want to work with because we need the money, but we don't really like that person and that person doesn't like us and it's not a good fit, right? So that happens a lot. Are you able to see that now? Do you have like that foresight to tell, you know what, this person is not worth my time. Maybe I can refer them out to someone else, or because of your experience, do you have that now?
With sellers, yes. With buyers, I do also. So with both, I do. But buyers, because they're so brand new to the business and they don't know, they're more like, hey, I just want a guidance and help. So I do have a team. So the women that I do work with,
Mm-hmm.
I do get them the buyers. Now with the sellers, I do let down some sellers, and I mean by let down, I'm like, I just don't work with them and don't take their business, because for me it's like one bad client, right, who's constantly calling you and stressing you, it's going to cost you so much more money down the line than if you let them go and focus on getting another one or two or three. Right? That one bad client can be on top of you nonstop. I had a client where she was great at the beginning. We working together great. And then she comes at me just being very aggressive. And I had to tell her, like, I'm sorry, but I'm not, I had to tell her, like, I'm not feeling this energy right now.
Right.
I don't know what's going on. I need you to tell me, are you not happy with what we did on the open house? Are you not happy with my team and how they're helping you sell your home properly? Because right now I can just let go of this agreement. She's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, so what it is that you're saying? Because I'm sensing that you're coming aggressively towards me when I've been doing my job. It's not my fault that individuals right now are not willing to pay that price. Hey, I sold the house across the street. The market is changing. I can't predict it or change it. So I was able to have that conversation with her, and then she was able to calm herself down and then lower the price, and we came to an agreement. But yeah, like I am very much like at the beginning, and you never know who the person is. So at the beginning, if you're already sensing that this is not the right client for you, it's like, why stress yourself out because of the, $20, $30, $40,000 when you can get one person that can lead you to another person and can lead you to more, and you're gonna your mind is gonna be so much freer. It's just things to in and come out,
Right. So it's centered around the relationship. It always goes back to the relationship because you're in a referral-based business at the end of the day, right? So you might have a batch like, okay, and I don't want to go into too much about how you filter your leads, but there is a customer base, essentially, right? People that are interested in your product, right? Maybe houses or multifamilies, wherever you focus more, right? There is a customer base. How do you identify your ideal client? People that you want to work with, people that you know are going to have good synergy, they're going to be worth your time, and it won't ever be about the deal. It's just like, I like talking to this person, and you know that no matter what, you're guaranteed a referral. How do you assess? How do you determine who's going to be an ideal client?
That's an interesting question. I feel right now for me, I'm constantly attracting the right clients that we're in the same mindset. For me, if for example, I prospect a lot. I am on the phone a lot. So if I'm talking to you on the phone and you're telling me, call me, a month from now or 2 months from now, and I do call you, and now you're being very, you're now seeing that there's no value in me providing to you, or you're not being open, then it's just, for me, automatically, it's just not going to work, right? I'm going to work to help you open up and help you feel safe and comfortable. But if I'm constantly wanting to have a conversation with you and you're shutting off, like you're just closing the door for me, then for me, that's not an ideal client, because I'm here just to guide you into the process. I understand that this home is a big thing for you, and I'm here to guide you. I don't know more. Well, in the real estate with what I'm doing, obviously you want to hire me because I know what I'm doing, and this is a partnership. But if you don't see it as a partnership, then we really can work together. Because if you're looking at me that I'm just here to take money or make money out of you, that's already a start. It's the wrong relationship that I want to have. And then for realtors too, that is the mindset that a lot of realtors have. So I understand where the sellers are coming from, right? Because they're getting tons of realtors that are having those conversations with them.
Right.
So for me, my ideal client is more of, hey, are you open? Am I creating a safe environment for you to open up? Are you creating a safe environment for me to open up? And I'm not feeling like, hey, I'm the boss and you do what I say, or I feel that same way where it's like, hey, I'm the boss and you do what I say.
Yeah. So transparency is key, right?
Yeah.
It helps you to figure out how you can work together. It's more like a partnership. It's not like you're working for them. It's more like you're working with them, right?
Correct.
Is that the same mindset that you use when it comes to picking your team members?
Well, not so with the team members right now, the way that I'm expanding a bit more with the way that I connect with them is definitely, are we on the same purpose? Are we looking to help other people? And are we providing value? And it's our mindset is creating a safe environment for ourselves and those people too. Okay. So if we're not in the same mindset of like, we want to help people and all we want to do is just make money, then that's not going to work, because I don't work that way.
Right. Do you look for people that are like you, that are like intrinsically based, like people that just have that inner drive, that motivation that you had since you were 16, or do you do a lot of like building people up?
So that's where I'm at right now, building people up. I have we know disc personality, so I have two. So one of them is very analytical, and
Which one
the
are
other
you?
one
Are you
is
the C or you're the C? You probably got a high C. High C.
She's a high C and an I. The
Oh,
other
okay.
one, the other one is an I and an S.
Okay.
And I'm a D. I'm a DI.
You're a DI. That's why we vibe, you and I, because I'm a DI too. Yeah.
So you can imagine, right? Like two beautiful women, I have like this I, and I'm like, listen, I just want to get to work, ladies. So for me, it's helpful to get individuals that are not my same personality, just because it teaches me better how to communicate. And not only that, it also helps the clients, the individuals that we decide to work with. Because if it's someone that is that's very calculated, then I know that this is going to work better for Chantel, who's very calculated and likes number. So that's why for me, I don't want to just focus on just my personality.
Got it. So you find people that compliment you, right? That can compensate for where you may, where you, I don't want to say lack, but where your areas where you're challenged, right? Because I'm challenged too in that area. Like as a high D, I don't really pay attention to the details. I just want the end result. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and it's funny because as a coach, I have to pay attention to the details. And it's when I put on my coaching hat that I become more detail oriented. It's not, and that's the thing about this that I like so much. It's not that we don't have these qualities. It's how much energy do we put towards distributing these qualities, right? So I know that when I'm talking to somebody who's like maybe more reserved, a high C or a high S, then I have to take my time and I have to listen more, right? I have to ask more questions. I have to really, peel back a few extra layers. And it comes from like the outset, like it's the initial conversation, how they pick up the phone. Are they short when they make their responses, right? Are they bottom liners, right? And so a lot of that, I guess, it helps me identify my ideal clients too, because at the end of the day, I think what I look for is speed of implementation. So if you want to implement change and you want to, see immediate results, you got to be willing to take the steps, and you got to be able to do it in like a gradual, progressive pace, right?
Yeah.
If you just like one shot wonder, crash and burn, and you didn't learn anything, it's because you were going too fast. I don't mind you crashing and burning, but at least pick up some gems along the way, right? So when you and it's funny because there's like so many different sides of this. You have it on the client side, and then you have it externally, and then you have it on internally with your team, right? So now here you are as a broker, you got to mediate a deal, right? And you might have somebody who, like you said, is very pushy, who's your client, maybe a seller, very pushy. They weren't being transparent. You have the conversation. It becomes a little confrontational, but then they open up to you and they say, okay, these are my fears. Usually this fear-based, right? This is why they're pushy, this anxiety, right? and they're saying, okay, these are my fears. Maybe I'm not selling for this price. I got to cover my mortgage, right? And then you got the buyer who's undervaluing the property and is making an offer that's not acceptable, right? But they want the property. Now, you being a DI, which one do you go into to negotiate the deal more? Do you find yourself using to negotiate the deal more?
Well, normally I represent more the seller.
Okay.
So if I were to work with both the buyer and the seller,
Right. Where you can do
right?
double end, maybe.
Yeah. So let's say if I were to do double ending, I do ask a lot of questions. So for me, my number one question will be to both the buyer and to the buyer first and say, okay, how much do you really want this house? And really trying to determine what it is that's holding them from getting that to actually put a higher price, right? What is it that the justification for it? And also the justification for the seller.
Right.
Why do you think that their home should be worth more? So and then I also look at the numbers. I have to look at why does this person came with this number and why did the seller came with this number?
Right.
So that's normally where I would go into it. I don't know if you want me to go a little bit more into that.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Because you got a lot of people who are just afraid to have that conversation because they're more reserved and you're not. You're a high D. So if they can take it from you, from your perspective, maybe they can apply some of your tactics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say that we're off by, let's say $20,000, right? Let's say that. So the first thing I will have with the seller is I would definitely figure out if the price that we did with the seller was the right price. I do sit with the seller and I do comps with them. And my bigger thing to the seller, if we're a little bit over, is like, hey, the bank has to come in and appraise that house.
There it is.
That's number one. So
Yep.
the bank has to come in and appraise it. Same conversation I have with the buyer. Hey, the bank has to come in and appraise it. So even if you feel like you're paying a little too high and the bank comes in, the bank is not going to lend you more than what the bank think the house is worth. So that's number one. Number two, I also do sit down with the buyer and do the numbers. So my thing is I'm very proactive. So once a buyer gets me an offer, the first thing I do is I call the lender and I ask the lender, how high can this client go?
I love that. I just want to interrupt you for a second here because that's a step that a lot of people skip. Once it goes to the lender, they drop the ball. They're like, oh, it's going to go through underwriting. I have no influence here. And they let it go. So your relationships are so solid that you get on the phone with the lender. And then you're probably, what you're doing essentially, I'll say, because you probably won't, is you're pre-qualifying the lender now, right?
Absolutely.
On their ability to close the deal, right? And not drop the ball, right?
Right. And the good thing with the lender, think about it. The lender is like, I'm talking to a realtor. What do the lenders want? They want more realtors, more business.
Right.
So my number one thing from that lender is like, hey, so the client likes this house. This is how much the house is worth. These are the taxes on the house. How much you think, how high can they go? Can they go any higher than this offer that they're giving me? And then if he's like, well, yeah, they could probably go, they will tell me whether they can go up or not. So they were like, yeah, they could probably go up 20K. I'm like, okay, great. I'm just curious, if they do go up 20K, how much would they have to pay more on mortgage? Like how much more would it be? Right. So now I can go back to the buyer and say, hey, Mr. Buyer, I know you really like the house. I'm talking to the owner. The owner's trying to budge a little bit, but he's not. How much do you really want this house?
Right.
Hear what they say. And then that's when I go in and then have that conversation and say, okay, I also, if you're, listen, you like the house, we're talking about $20 more that you're going to be paying a month. So for $20 more, are you willing to lose this house? And I also talk to the lender where I'm like, hey, Mr. Lender, do me a favor, talk to the buyer too, and see how you can get them up. So that's kind of how I do it. It's like tag teaming that specific client so that we're both doing it together.
Outstanding. Hats off, because that's so hard to teach. And it's confrontational. A lot of people don't want to have that conversation. So for you to just break it down the way you did, it goes right back to the way I started this thing. You take the things that are complex, you simplify them, and it's easily applicable, right? So that's a really good situation. And it sounds to me like you used more of your eye, because it's a matter of being persuasive. It's a matter of influencing the deal, right? And not driving it and not being too much of a tyrant, even though at the end of the day, you probably will become one if nobody wants to listen, right?
Absolutely.
That might be required, right? Depending on who you're dealing with. That's a really good approach. So on your team now, how do you assess who's going to get what kind of deal, right? Or do you have people doing your admin? Do you have people doing your processing? What does that look like?
So I had an admin, and because of the whole COVID-19, she's no longer here. So I am looking to hire. So if anybody's listening there,
Rosa's hiring.
Yes, in administration, let me know, with a lot of potential for growth.
Right.
So I do have had an admin, and the two buyer agents that I have, I'm converting them now into seller listing agents, right? So that's the main focus. So what I'm doing now is that I'm dividing the leads, because I do have a lot of leads. So I divide the leads that I have amongst them two. And then now what we're doing is I'm writing them, and I'm actually creating a 2-pager with all the questions that a seller could potentially ask them because of COVID-19, from, hey, how's the market doing? You know, hey, I'm talking to my attorney. My attorney's saying that maybe we should wait 3 or 6 more months. Hey, I'm hearing that there's not a lot of buyers. You know, I'm hearing that the market is not great. Like, what I'm hearing that the market is going to drop. As a buyer, let's wait. So I'm creating that for the girls right now, for the women that I'm working with. I'm creating that for the team. And I'm giving them the leads, and the leads I'm dividing them is just really, I'm just hand picking them. I'll give them 10, and then they need to give me a report of like, how did it go this week? So what I'm doing with my team right now, because honestly, we all just got out of this. The first coaching call that we did, we got back on Monday.
Nice.
If you want, I can share what I've been doing with them.
Yeah, talk to me.
Right. So the first
we
thing
want to know, we want the inside scoop, Rosa.
Yes, I'm going to be coaching you guys now, right? So one of the things that that we did was we actually sat down on Monday, right? We did like a Zoom call. And the first thing I asked them is, what did they feel they lost through COVID-19? Right? What was the loss of the business? How did it feel for them? So for me, I felt like I lost deals. I lost over 200 grand in deals. So that stressed me out.
Yeah.
Yep. So I lost deals, and I also lost control, right? Control of the team and control, right? So, so I gave myself that space. So I first became vulnerable and told them how I felt, and they share how they felt.
Create that safe space. Yeah.
Yep. So we were all able to kind of like grieve that process, because when you grieve, it allows now for change to come. In order for change to come, there has to be a loss.
Yeah. Can I cut you off just for a second?
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you don't micromanage. It doesn't sound like you micromanage at all. It sounds like you give them some autonomy. You give them what they need, the leads, you distribute the leads, and then you allow them to work the leads. And I think you said they have a week to report back to you with their progress, right? So the reason I was asking that too is because if somebody's willing to get on the phone with the lender, usually there's a level of control there, right? And a lot of people don't know when to, grab control and when to let go of the control, right? So it sounds like you do that pretty well though, because here you are taking control of the deal, driving the deal forward, but then you're like, okay, when it comes to my team, I give them the freedom and the autonomy they need to actually, work in their own way, in their own style, and then report back to me. So that's really important. And I can tell that you do that because of what you just said. You are the example, and you talk about what the deals that you lost, 200K worth of deals. I wouldn't even talk about it. Like me personally, I'd have been like, you know what? Move on. I wouldn't talk about it because I'd probably still be grieving every time I said the number, right? That's just me, okay? And the fact that you said that you went through that process with your team, that's being transparent, which goes right back to what you said about having the relationship with your clients, transparency, right? So you're leading by example. Just wanted to like highlight that a little bit, just in case people may have missed that.
Yeah, and my thing with my team is and the reason why I do it that way is because I told them, even when we had the conversation, I said, guys, and I go more into that, but at the end, after our conversation, which I'm going to go through what the coaching looked like for me with them, at the end, I told them, listen, by December, I want you guys to hit your goals, and we all going to sit back and decide, are we going to continue to work with Rosa, or are we going to do this on our own? Because I don't want people to stay with me if they don't want to. I don't want them to feel like, well, I can only do this because Rosa's here. I want you to grow, and you decide whether you want to continue to grow with me or if you want to take your space and continue to grow. Because that, to me, makes me feel good to be able to be like, wow, I made an impact in this person's life. And with me for 6 months or a year or 6 years or 10, 20 years, I'm okay with that. But that's my main goal, is I want to help them grow and help them think on their own. So after we went into that grieving process, then the second thing we went into is like, okay, guys, after that, I said, okay, so let's say that 2022 happens. What do you want to have said to yourself that you learned or was able to overcome or did through this pandemic?
Nice.
Going back to COVID-19, how would you like it to be in 2022? For me, I wanted to be where I was authentic, where I was vulnerable with my clients and with my team, and I was able to connect more. Nice. That's what I wanted to look like for me, looking back in 2022.
Outstanding. Yeah. I love it. I love your leadership style. It's I think what it is, the fact that you're willing to put yourself out there like that first, and then you establish like realistic timelines, right? That's part of what I do too. I like to say, let's look at 12, let's look at 24, and let's look at 36. and let's look at where we're going to be within those periods, right? And then we kind of break it down again quarterly. And some people need to be broken down quarterly so they can stay on target. But I think now the part that gets tricky is, when I first started out in real estate, I was the legs of the operation for a long time. And I'm just naturally an inquisitive, curious person. You know what I mean? So I couldn't stay the legs of the operation for a long time. I started out in rentals, and I just felt like they kept trying to make me stay stupid, right? And I was like, no, I need to continue to learn. But what you're doing is you're empowering your team, and you're like, listen, I want you to learn so much that I want you to get to a point where you decide whether or not you want to grow with me or if you want to go out on your own. And I think a lot of people are afraid to let people go and grow because eventually they'll become competition. And that's like, real estate is competitive. It's kind of cutthroat depending on the market you're in, right?
Absolutely. And I'm all about collaborating with people. I love that.
Yeah.
So then after we had that conversation, and the whole point of me going first is to be vulnerable so that they feel safe too to be vulnerable. But if I'm being vulnerable and you're not opening up, then we're not going to continue that conversation. Right? Because it has to be a give and take, So once we determine the goals that they have their plan for 6 months, I'm like, all right, for 6 months from now, what it is that you actually want to, what is it that you want to achieve? How many listings, how many under contracts do you want? Then after they tell me what their monthly, their 6 months from now looks like, then we break it down into a month. And then, we break it down into a week. Like on Friday, what is your goal for the week? And then we do mini goals, which is our daily goals. But the thing that I've done that I just
down the ridiculous. Yeah, you narrowed down the ridiculous. Yeah.
Yep. So it's like how many calls you need to make, who do you need to talk to, how many people you need to take out, how many listing appointments you need to go to based on where you are right now. Yes, I'm going to help you, I'm going to guide you, but you need to get that appointment on your own. And how many do you need to do on your own appointments, right? So that you can actually both go in there and then now you can feel comfortable doing it on your own. But after we do that, so right now for me, I'll use, for example, myself, I'll give you 2 of them. So one of the goals that I have now is on a daily goal is I'm supposed to make an hour call, and then implement and then do 10 minutes added every single week. So I'm up to 2 hours by the end of the week. And then I'm still going back to 2 hours. But after I do that, and it's funny, after I do my calls, I celebrate. So you're supposed you write them. You write them, you tell it to the person. So I tell my girls, I text the girls and I'm like, hey, I just finished my calls. Now I'm going to celebrate. And celebrating for me is dancing.
Nice. Are you doing the merengue, the bachata, the two? What are you doing?
I'm doing a mix of whatever I feel like. So I'm like some Mexican music. Noticed everyone. I was like 90 in 1990. I used to be obsessed with her. So that's what I would be dancing. So my celebration is dancing. They still can't figure out their celebration. And my other one is I want to wake up at 5 a.m. Now I'm waking up at 7:30. So every week, every day, I'm going back 5 minutes. Okay, waking up 5 minutes earlier. And the reason I celebrate is just getting up and jumping. Like, oh, yes, I just did. You're awesome.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It invites the shift. Yeah. I love that. I think it's a good way to just have a little bit of fun, right? You got to have a little bit of fun what you're doing. Don't get all squared up about it.
Yeah. And treat your brain too. Like, oh my gosh, I did something good. This is my reward. Because we're so focused on we don't even focus on really being rewarded for the achievement that we've done.
Yeah.
Like, I bought a house, right? And when I bought my house, I didn't even achieve. I didn't even feel happy for that. Thank you.
Right.
Like I was just like, all right, whatever. I did my first flip the next year after I bought my house. Nice. I didn't even say, oh my gosh, good job, Rosa. You made X amount of money. Like I just, So now I realize that for your brain to continue to do more, you have to celebrate. Because we're so used to beating each other down,
Yeah. So again, it goes right back to what I said. You're the kind of person that's chasing achievements at this point. Right. It's no longer about the dollar amount. You got that down to a science. Now you're chasing achievements. And that's what you're celebrating, your achievements, right? Let's segue into what the market looks like post quarantine. So, you're in Queens, right? You're in East Elmhurst. You focus a lot in Corona. You focus on some, single family, multifamily, right? Is that where you see a lot of activities? What does it look like for you right now? Is it more of a buyer's market, more of a seller's market?
Right now, it's more of a seller's market in my end here in Queens. There's so many buyers, there's just not enough inventory. So I'm constantly calling my clients right now, like, listen, you want to go ahead and put this home on the market now? Because I do feel that people are going to want to leave New York once they feel like, okay, everything's better. They might want
Right.
to move to Long Island. They might want to move upstate New York or to the Bronx or New Jersey. So right
Right.
now I'm definitely getting more of a seller's market.
Okay. Are you basing a lot of your activity based off the job market also, or not so much, or just more like people retiring?
More people, more either they're retiring, more retirement, and they just
Okay.
want to make that move. I'm like, all right, now I'm ready to go.
Got it. All right. What's your advice to like people who, because it's tough right now, right? You got a lot of people who are waiting for unemployment. They're waiting for unemployment. They're waiting for, something to come in the mail, maybe a stimulus check or something. And they're realtors too, they're realtors, and they're tough. It's tough. They don't have, I guess, the amount of experience that you have or that intrinsic, motivation that you have. What would you say to some people right now that are struggling and just need, to hear, maybe inspire some hope? Just so they can either hang it up and go get a job or continue on, the path forward. What would you say?
I mean, I think that the first thing that you want to do is really sit down and just kind of like, what is the life that you want to have? Like, is this really what you want to do? If it's really real estate, then, and it's not really that hard. Like, this is not a hard business to be in. You can make, I remember my second year in real estate, I made $400,000. Guys,
Outstanding.
I went on vacation. I went to China for like 2 weeks. I
Nice.
did that year. I did probably about between vacations and training, and I hardly worked. I went door knocking. So if you do want to do this, you can work this business 5 hours a day, right? Get on the phone, make a call. I mean, for me, I'm just like even thinking about going back to the corporate world, making 50, 60, or even $100,000 in a regular job wouldn't do
Yeah.
it for me because I'm working 9 to 5 or 9 to 6.
Right.
So it's like all you need to do is, guys, stop with the excuses, because we all do make excuses, and
Right.
just get on the phone, call people. It's just getting on the phone and you will get better. Learn the scripts. Everything that we need, it's in our hands. It's on right now. Like, look, you and I are able to do a Zoom call.
Yeah.
It's easy for someone right now. Like, we all have the answer. If you want to lose, let's say 10 pounds in the next month, there is tons of information online. If you want
Right.
to
How
know
to
how
do
to
it.
be successful in real estate, Dennis is putting this information out. You
Yeah.
can reach out to Dennis and be like, hey, coach me. Let's do a discovery call, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are the things that is holding you back? And he's able to help you. So
Right.
I would say, get on the phone, see how you can help people, or make a decision whether this is the career you want to or not. I said it's easy. I didn't say that. I told you it's easy, the process, but it does require a lot of work.
It does require the work. Yeah. You got to be
Everything else
willing to put in the work. Yeah, for sure. Okay, Rosa, let's play a little game. We're going to play the lightning round. Are you ready? It's
yeah.
going to be called hands down. It's called hands down, the lightning round. The way that it works is, here's a good one for you. When I'm in Queens, I would prefer to get Dominican food over Chinese food because Dominican food has a lot more love, hands down. That's my argument. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to give you 5 topics. You tell me what your bottom line is about those topics. And if you don't like the topic, you just go ahead and say and pass, and I'll move on to the next one. All right.
Okay. Let's see where this takes us.
Okay. First one. Merengue or bachata?
Oh, merengue.
Merengue. Okay. Second one. COVID, protecting yourself. Would you say masks or face coverings? Cloth
Mask.
face coverings.
Mask. I don't like any of them, but mask.
A mask. Okay. For you, would you rather live in the suburbs or would you rather live in the city?
That's an interesting question. We can pass that one. I don't know yet. I'm the favorite both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite gangster movie of all time?
Favorite gangster movie of all time. What's the name of this movie? Why is it on the tip of my tongue? Oh my gosh, what's the name of that movie? Oh my gosh, not Pulp Fiction. No, that's
Pulp Fiction is
not
pretty
one.
gangster, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not that one. It's the one with Call Me With a Master Plan. The song is there. Like, I have the song in my head.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to come back to that one.
Okay. All right. And since you're in sales, I got to ask you this one. Favorite sales movie of all time?
I do like Boiler Room.
Boiler Room. Yeah, that's a classic. Wow. You're old school. Back to the Boiler Room.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Okay. And finally, Rosa, your bottom line. What's that reoccurring truth something that, you know, no matter what, in spite of any setback, any deals that you may have lost, right? Your reoccurring truth, your bottom line, something that keeps you right back, that gets you right back on track and serves as an anchor for you. What would that be for you? What's your bottom line?
My bottom line for me is definitely God. Just going back to God and like knowing that this is the place where he put me to. Real estate is where he put me and placed me. So it's just the anchor is definitely always God. Like, hey, whenever I'm in doubt, it's like, all right, let's get back to journaling. Let's go talk to God and see where it is. Are you really here are you helping people? Like, are you helping the person or are you just taking advantage of the person?
Right.
So
Nice. Love it. Any last words? Oh, actually, where do people find you? What if anybody wants to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
So obviously, you know, he kept saying motivated. So on
Yeah.
IG, it's Rosa Motivated. On Facebook, it's Rosa Motivated 1 or Rosa M. Collado. You'll find me there. And if you want to connect with me, you can go ahead and give me a call. I'm going to give you my personal number. It's 917-833-0582. The number again is 917-833-0582. And if you know anybody that wants to buy, sell, give me a call. And if you're a realtor and you want to partner with me in regards to like getting some leads, because I'm actually working on something I want to share with you.
Yeah. Let's
with,
talk about it.
Charter Real Estate School. I'm actually going to partner with the real estate school. And in the next 2 weeks, we're launching this program where we're actually I'm going to be training real estate agents how to work with buyers. They're going to leave from there with a buyer lead. They're going to leave from there with a website and their logo.
Very nice. Okay, when does that start? 2 weeks from now, you say?
2 weeks from now, it's the plan. Yep.
Okay, is it going to be based out in Queens?
It's going to be, so I have clients in Brooklyn and Queens as well. So it's going to be buyers from all over. Well, mostly Queens and Brooklyn. It's going to be buyers.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Virtual.
All right. Oh, nice. Very nice. So again, you see, so you're taking advantage of the virtual resources available to us, especially during these times, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to collaborate. You know, again, it's not about competition. I want to change this industry and really make it more of a collaboration. How can I help the newer people that are coming in that they don't know how to through this process?
Yeah. That's big of you. That's big of you. I mean, because it's a cutthroat industry. And so it sounds like you're doing really well. So now you're sharing a lot of the game and you're allowing people to eat off your plate as well. Right. And I think that's really big of you. Right. Not a lot of people are doing that nowadays.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited.
For sure. This was a lot of fun. Rosa, thank you for taking the time. Right. I learned so much about you today. You're way more than, your content on Facebook. You ask a lot of the questions, but not a lot of times do people ask a lot of the questions about you. So I think that's why I wanted to take an opportunity this moment, right? Take advantage of this opportunity. All right. Any last words? Anything else you want to say to people?
I just want to say thank you, Dennis. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate being on the other side of the conversation. So this was great. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would just encourage people is like, don't give up on your dream. Obviously, if you even started real estate was because you had a dream. I would just say partner with the right people, or just look for the resources that we all have online.
Nice, love it. And that was Rosa's bottom line. And this is the bottom line, where we say what we mean, and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line.